John McCain and you're losing on the economy and taxes and health care, and you have nowhere else to go. You turn to bin Laden, al-Qaeda, and Afghanistan. You stoke the fear of a national security threat that your opponent will not be able to handle. Our third story in the countdown, in so doing, John McCain did remind everybody that he knows how to get bin Laden and will do so, but if we don't elect him president, forget it, he ain't helping nobody find nobody. After a closed-door so-called National Security Roundtable in Tampa, convened by his campaign, Senator McCain, flanked by the hand-picked panelists who took part, used some of his most aggressive language to date, delivering remarks questioning Obama's experience with the role of commander-in-chief, criticizing his voting record, and, curiously, projecting what America would be like were Obama to win.
We're getting only a glimpse of what one-party rule would look like under Obama, Pelosi, and Reid. Apparently, it starts with lowering our defenses and raising our taxes. Our national security is dependent on our economic security, and the plans of a Democratic-dominated Washington would harm both. Raising taxes and unilaterally renegotiating trade agreements, as they have promised, would make a bad economy even worse and undermine our national security, even as they slash defense spending. At least when European nations chose the path of higher taxes and cutting defense, they knew that their security would still be guaranteed by America.
Time now to call in the Washington editor of The Nation magazine, Chris Hayes. Good evening, Chris.
Hey, Keith.
The secret National Security Roundtable and these public remarks, there are a lot of fear cards in that, but how many cards does he have left in his deck if it's kind of a throw everything you have all at once under those sort of circumstances?
Yeah, they seem to be pursuing all their messages in parallel at this point. I mean, I guess at a certain level, at least they're making some kind of substantive critique on both the economy and national security now, which I think is interesting. In some ways, we've seen the campaign come a full 360 degrees. They started out thinking that their strongest foot forward was national security, scaring people about his inexperience, and living in the Virginia television market as I do, I can tell you that that's what the ads right now are returning to by both the RNC and the McCain campaign. And I think what that signals is the fact they realized all the silliness that we've been subjected to over the last 2 months about Bill Ayers and celebrities really didn't give them any traction.
How does that message from earlier today now sound in light of Obama's broadcast tonight?
Well, look, I mean, this is the problem from the beginning. They're behind, so they have to go negative. When they go negative, they have to create this caricature of this terrible, radical, crazy, scary liberal Democrat who's going to come and raise your taxes and cut defense spending and pals around with terrorists. And so that's the caricature they create in going negative. And then Barack Obama, the eminently sensible, centrist, thoughtful, incredibly unthreatening figure actually comes in front of your television screen. And I think the disjunction between the two images time and time again actually redounds to Obama's benefit.
And there was something odd about some of this in there about the Democratic domination of Washington. McCain began to sound like he's one of those Republicans who are saying, let's focus on Congress. It's positing an Obama administration, albeit in the conditional sense. But what was in that? Was even he shifting some of his mental resources into trying to defend the House and Senate seats?
I don't know about that. I do think that the kind of last gambit is to warn people about this one-party rule line, which they've been trotting out recently. And I think it's one of these things that's it's sort of a bank shot. I mean, it's a little too process-heavy. I think, and it's circular in nature. What they're saying is if you elect all these Democrats, then Democrats are going to run the country. But from what we can tell, that's exactly what the American people want right now.
Speaking of the conditional tense, why has McCain not been asked, hey, if you're elected, obviously you're going to go and get bin Laden, at least you say you are. If you're not elected, are you going to tell the president-elect your secret plan to get bin Laden, or are you just going to keep it to yourself?
Well, I think the reason he hasn't been asked that is because no one takes very seriously the notion that John McCain in his back pocket has a foolproof plan to track down the man the U.S. government has failed to get for the last 8 years. So I think that the press in this one case has been quite kind to John McCain on that score.
Well, I mean, don't you think he takes it seriously? I mean, do you think he's just spouting there? Don't you think he really thinks he has the plan and nobody else does?
Well, look, I think that he believes as an article of bedrock faith about himself in relation to Barack Obama that he is the only one in the race who can protect America. And I think that that's not something that he's putting on when he talks to voters. I think that he's convinced himself that Barack Obama is actually dangerous for the United States. The problem is that there are a tremendous number of people with a lot of integrity, a lot of experience, and a lot of good judgment who see that as not being the case. And so I think that one of the problems that has beset the McCain campaign from the beginning is that their conception of Barack Obama is so kind of curdled and negative that they can't relate to the way the voters see him.
Chris Hayes of The Nation. Great, thanks. Have a good night.
Thanks a lot, Keith.